Good morning, everybody. My name is CH Vinay Bharadwaj, and I am from Triple E first year of section A. Today, I am going to explain you about Python PPT. Today, I am going to explain you about the conceptual video of Python on the topic of features of Python. Okay, on the topic of features of Python. Coming to this, there are a few features of Python, and they are: number one, Python is a dynamic. Next one, it is high level language. Number three, it is free and open source. Next, it is easy to code. Next, it is object oriented language. Okay, OOL, object oriented language. It is GUI programming support. Next, it is interpreted programming language. Then next, it is extensible features. It has extensible features. And Python is portable language. It is also interpreted language. It is Python is integrated language. It is a large standard library. It has dynamical typed language. Let's discuss briefly about these features. Number one, Python is a dynamic language. Why Python is a dynamic language? Let's discuss. Generally, Python don't have any problem even if we don't declare the type of variable. It states the kind of variable in the runtime of the program. Python also take cares of the memory management, which is crucial in programming. So Python is dynamically typed language. Why Python is dynamically typed language? Because it don't have any problem while it don't have any problem. If we don't declare any variable. For suppose if you don't mention or don't declare a variable in a program, it doesn't make any problem in Python. It doesn't make any problem. That's the reason why Python is dynamic language. Then next, Python is a very high level programming language. It is very high level programming language, which Python is very high level programming language. Why? There's a reason. And what's the reason is Python is very high level language program language. Okay. Because its syntax so closely resembles the English language. Higher level means it's more readable to humans and less readable to computers. Likewise, lower level means less readable for humans and more readable for computers. Okay. Python is very high level programming language because it is low readable for computers and high readable for human beings. Meanwhile, it less readable in the sense for humans are more readable for computers. Okay, means less. It is Python is very high level language because it is more readable to humans when it is compared to computers, and when it is less less readable. Likewise, lower level means here nothing but higher level. Python is higher level language. Why? Because it is more readable to humans when compared to computers. And what is mean by less readable? Less readable means more readable for computers when compared to human beings. It is vice versa. That's it. And that is the reason why Python is very high level programming language. Next, Python is a open source language. Why Python is open source language? Because there's a reason for the Python for that. What is What is that is Python is free open source programming language because it is available for everyone to use. It also has a huge and growing ecosystem with a varieties of open source packages and libraries. If you would like to download and install Python on your computers, you can do for free at python.org. Python is open source language because it is free for everyone. If you need or if you willing to do a Python program in your laptops, just you can search in Chrome python.org, then install it. Few programs asks premium in the sense they ask money to pay, but here Python do not require any such type of amount. It is free. That's the reason why it is open source language. It is free for everyone to code, to learn. Next, Python is a interpreted programming language. Why Python is an interpreted programming language? Because the source code of a Python program is converted into bytecode that is then executed by Python virtual machine. Python is different from major compiled languages such as C and C++, and Python code is not required to be built and linked like code for these languages. Why Python is interpreted programming language? Because the source code of Python program is converted into bytecode. Then it is executed. The reason is the source code of a Python is converted into bytecode. That's why Python is interpreted programming language. Next, is Python an easy to code? Is Python an easy to code? Python can be considered beginner friendly as it is a programming language that prioritizes readability, making it easier to understand and use. Its syntaxes has similarities with the English language, making it easy for novice programmers to leap into the world of development. Here the meaning of this above sentences is nothing but Python is very easy when we compare the Python language with other languages. For example, such as C and C++. They are too hard when we compare with Python language because they don't have easy programs such as in Python. It is very easy to understand because the syntaxes of Python is like English. It is in English. The syntaxes of Python is in English format. That's the reason why we can understand Python. When we compare to C and C++, the syntaxes of C and C++ are not in the format of English. That's the reason why Python is easier to code. One of the most popular programming languages, Python is also among the easiest programming languages to learn. Coders use Python to create applications, crunch data, and automate processes. It's also used in artificial intelligence and machine learning. Python is very useful and very easy. The programmers, the code writers uses Python for the applications. Okay, they create applications by using Python language, and this Python is also used in artificial intelligence and machine learning. Next, OOL. Here, OOL in the sense object-oriented language. Python is an OOL. Python is an object-oriented language. And what is meant by object-oriented language? An object-oriented language is a computer programming that revolves around the concept and object. Object-oriented languages were developed to make it easier to develop, debug, refuse, and maintain software than is possible with earlier languages. Why Python is object-oriented language? Because the computer program that revolves around the concept of object-oriented language were developed, it make easier to develop, debug, reuse, etc. And next, GUI programming support. Python is an GUI programming support. What is mean by GUI? Here, GUI is nothing but graphical user interface. Graphical user interface is known as GUI. Python is a GUI programming support because GUI, before going to that, what is GUI programming support? GUI stands for graphical user interference and refers to computer programs that provides a visual means of users to interact with an underlying applications or system. For example, the GUIs on our mobile phones allow us to interact with different functions through the display, which we can touch, tap, and swipe on. It is nothing but it refers computer programs and provide visual means of users to interact with underlying applications, such as displays. It allows phones to interact with different functions. That's mean by GUI programming support. And next, interrupted programming language. Python is an interrupted programming language because an interrupted language is a programming language whose implementations execute instructions directly and freely without previously compiling a program into machine language instructions. In this language, once the program is compiled, it is expressed in the instructions of the target machine. Okay. Why Python is interrupted programming language? Because whose implementations execute instructions directly and freely without previous compiling of program. We can execute instructions directly and freely without any previous compiler of a program. That's the reason why Python is interrupted programming language. Next, Python is extensible feature. It has extensible features because it has embedded language. Python is an extensible and embeddable language, meaning if we feel to use other program languages to perform a specific part of a project, Python allows us to use other program languages with it. Also, we can embed Python with other languages. It has an extensible feature. What is that feature? If while you are doing Python, if you wanna do, for suppose example, I want to do C program while I want to do Python, then this Python program allows you the other programs such as C, C++, etc. and etc. This allows the program of other program including this program. Okay, this Python program allows another program including this Python program. And next, Python is portable language. Why Python is portable language? Because Python is designed to be portable. Its programs as support any modern computer OS owing to the high-level nature of the language. Python script is interpreted so it can be written for further interpretation equally well on Linux, Windows, Mac OS, and Unix without demanding for adjustments. Okay. Python is portable language because the programs of these are supports for modern computers, OS, owing, and high-level language, etc. and etc. and it can be written for further interpretation equally, such as Linux, Windows, Mac OS. Mac in the sense iPhone. It is an iPhone brand. Mac OS, Android, Mac OS, and Unix without demanding for adjustments. Next, Python is interpreted language. What is meant by interpreted language? Here, interpreted language is nothing but it is a programming language which are generally interpreted without compiling a program into machine instructions. It is one where the instructions are not directly executed by the target machine, but instead read and executed by some other program. Python is interpreted language because the programs of this language were generally imported without compiling. That's the main reason of a program into machine instructions. And it is executed by target machine, but instead of reading and executing by some other programs. Okay. Next, why Python is called interpreted language? There's a reason for Python to call that Python is an interpreted language. That is because that goes through an interpreter, which turns code you write into the language understood by your computer's processor. The meaning is which turns the code in and write it into the language understood by your computer's processor. Okay, that's the reason why it is called interpreted language. It passes through interpreter, which what is interpreter? Which turns code into language understood by the computer's processor. That is called interpreter, and that's the reason why Python is called interpreted language. Okay. Next, Python is also called as integrated language. Why Python is also called as integrated language? Because Python is an integrated language by nature. This means that the Python interpreter executes codes on line at a time, unlike other object-oriented programming languages. We don't need to compile Python code, thus making the debugging process much easier and efficient. The meaning of this above sentences is nothing but it is when interpreter executes a code on one line at a time, unlike other object-oriented programming languages, don't need to compile. For suppose if you are executing one line of code, the online compiler doesn't need any object-oriented program languages to compile the other Python code. That's the reason why Python is an integrated language. And Python is large standard library. Why Python is large standard library? Because the Python standard library consists of more than 200 crores of modules. All these work together to make Python a high level important role. Without it, the programmers can't have access to the functionalities of Python. It is a very large standard library. Why Python is very large standard library? Because it consists of more than 200 crores of modules. That's the reason why it is the large standard library, and the programmers can't even access to the functionalities of Python if they can't have access to the functionalities of Python. I mean, without these 200 crores of module, the programmers can't even access the functionalities of the Python. Next, dynamically typed language. Python is also called as dynamically typed language because Python is both a strongly typed and a dynamically typed language. Strong typing means that variables do not have any type and that the type matters when performing operations on a variable. Dynamic typing means that the type of variable is determined only during runtime. Okay, that's the reason why Python is dynamically typed language. Class, thank you one and all. Me, Vinay Bharadwaj, signing off.